For centuries, our history books have told a simple story, that the world's earliest civilizations rose independently, with no contact, no shared knowledge, and no common origin. But what if that story is wrong? What if the truth about humanity's past is far stranger, far older, and far more connected than anyone ever imagined? In today's video, we're diving into a mystery that is rewriting everything we thought we knew about ancient civilization. It begins with a discovery so unbelievable that archaeologists tried to explain it away for years. Deep beneath layers of untouched soil, researchers found artifacts that defied logic. Objects carved with Egyptian symbols thousands of miles from Egypt. Designs identical to Sumerian patterns discovered in a region that had never heard of Mesopotamia. Mathematical markings that matched early Indian geometry found in a civilization that should have had no idea such knowledge even existed. These weren't random similarities. They were precise, intentional, and completely impossible according to the traditional timeline of human history. There were no trade routes connecting these cultures, no ships capable of such distances, no written records describing any contact. And yet the evidence was right there in the soil, older than the civilizations they supposedly came from. This discovery is forcing historians and archaeologists to confront a question that many have avoided for decades. Did an advanced, forgotten civilization pass knowledge to the world long before history officially began? Stay with me, because what you're about to learn may completely change the way you see the ancient world. And before we continue, if you're fascinated by lost civilizations, forbidden archaeology, and mysteries that mainstream history can't explain, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. It helps the channel grow, and it ensures you never miss the truth hidden beneath the surface of our past. The story began in a remote excavation site far from any major ancient kingdom, an area long considered archaeologically unremarkable. The team expected to find the usual: pottery shards, simple tools, maybe some remnants of early settlements. But within hours of digging, they realized this site held something entirely different. As they brushed away layers of dust and soil, they uncovered objects that did not fit the culture associated with the region. One shard of pottery carried geometric shapes identical to those found in early dynastic Egypt. Another piece revealed carved patterns eerily similar to Mesopotamian motifs. Yet another contained numerical symbols that mirrored those used in early Indian mathematics. The archaeologists initially assumed contamination, a mixing of soil layers, or the possibility that artifacts from different eras had somehow collided. But when they sent samples for carbon dating, the results shocked them. The artifacts were older than the earliest known versions found in the civilizations they resembled. This discovery caused immediate tension within the academic community. How could designs appear here before they appeared in the places they supposedly originated? The excavation leader documented everything meticulously, convinced that they had stumbled upon something unprecedented. As the team continued to uncover the site, they found more objects bearing familiar but out-of-place cultural signatures. None belonged to the timeline or geography.
None should have been there. The deeper they dug, the more the ancient world seemed to twist into something unrecognizable. The artifacts suggested a level of knowledge and cultural connection far earlier than mainstream history allowed. Every object pulled from the dirt contradicted centuries of accepted historical chronology. The archaeologist had not just found misplaced artifacts, they had found evidence that threatened the foundations of human history. With each day of excavation, the mystery grew. One of the most striking discoveries was a bead carved in the exact shape of the Egyptian Ankh symbol, a form associated with life, royalty, and divine power in the Nile Valley. Yet the bead was older than any known Egyptian artifact depicting the same symbol. The team found stones carved with wedge-shaped marks that closely resembled Sumerian cuneiform script. But again, carbon dating placed these carvings centuries before the earliest Sumerian city-states merged. Even more puzzling was a small object inscribed with a spiral mathematical pattern identical to those used in ancient Vedic systems of India. Patterns associated with advanced geometry and cosmology. The archaeologists debated endlessly. Could these similarities be coincidence? Independent invention? Parallel development? The ideas seemed unlikely. These cultures were separated by vast distances, harsh terrains, and seas that their known ancestors were not capable of crossing at that early time. The suggestion that three different civilizations developed the same symbols, forms, and mathematical structures independently stretched credibility. But the biggest breakthrough came when one researcher pointed out that these symbols did not appear randomly. They were grouped, arranged, organized, as if they were part of a unified system. This suggested the possibility that the people who made them were familiar with these ideas long before Egypt, Sumer, or India developed their own traditions. Some team members believed the artifacts indicated a cultural exchange that had never been recorded. Others argued this pointed to a much older civilization, one that transmitted these ideas long before the great ancient empires rose. The deeper the team looked, the clearer it became that the similarities were not mistakes or coincidences. They were fingerprints of something older, something global. Nature of the symbols and motifs, mathematically consistent, culturally specific, and stylistically identical, made such a theory impossible. As possibilities dwindled, the archaeological community faced a difficult truth. The existence of these objects contradicted the established timeline of human civilization. If these symbols existed earlier in this remote region than in the civilizations they are associated with, it implied that those later civilizations were not the inventors, but the inheritors of these ideas. The implications were enormous. It meant that the earliest chapters of human civilization were missing, erased, or forgotten. The accepted narrative that Egypt, Sumer, and the Indus Valley independently developed writing, mathematics, and symbolic culture suddenly seemed incomplete. The artifacts suggested that these civilizations may have drawn from a shared source that predates them all. The source historians had never acknowledged. Suddenly, the ancient world stopped fitting together. Timelines unraveled, maps share mathematical ideas and influence cultures that would rise thousands of years later. It would explain why Egyptian symbols, Mesopotamian motifs, and Indian mathematics appeared together in the same site, older than all of them. The idea was controversial. Mainstream historians rejected it, claiming that such a civilization would require levels of organization and infrastructure unseen in early humanity. But supporters argued that the absence of evidence did not mean the absence of existence. Most ancient settlements were destroyed by natural disasters, buried under oceans, or lost to time. Only a small fraction of humanity's past has been excavated. It was entirely plausible that an early civilization once flourished and disappeared, leaving behind only indirect traces of its influence. This civilization, if real, would have been responsible for planting the seeds of knowledge that later cultures developed independently. It would have been the invisible architect behind humanity's early rise. Some researchers compared this hypothetical society to the concept of Atlantis or other legendary lost worlds. But unlike myths, this theory was grounded in tangible evidence: artifacts, patterns, symbols, and deeds. The idea unsettled historians because it forced them to reconsider humanity's origins. If a forgotten civilization once existed, it meant that our ancestors were not primitive as long believed. Instead, they may have inherited knowledge from a people more advanced than we imagined. The implications touched everything: migration, technology, cultural evolution, even the timeline of human intelligence. Behind the curtain of history, an unknown civilization might be waiting to be rediscovered. Matched celestial patterns carved into rocks in Asia. Early Vedic geometry appeared in the designs of ceremonial objects in Africa and the Mediterranean. These connections were too specific to be random and too widespread to be accidental. Previously, historians dismissed such similarities as coincidence or misinterpretation. But now, with the newly discovered artifacts providing a central piece of the puzzle, the global pattern was impossible to deny. The symbols were consistent in form, mathematical structure, and purpose across multiple continents. The team compiled data from dozens of excavations and found recurring themes: serpentine symbols representing knowledge, sun disks representing divinity, spirals representing cosmic cycles, and star maps aligned with constellations revered across different cultures. Why would civilizations separated by oceans share such specific symbolic traditions long before they allegedly had contact? The evidence pointed toward a shared origin. Some suggested early humans were more mobile than believed, capable of long-distance travel and cultural exchange. Others proposed a series of lost migration waves predating recorded history. But the most compelling theory remained that all these symbols came from a single source, a forgotten civilization that disseminated these ideas before disappearing. Academic institutions resisted the theory, fearing it threatened long-standing historical frameworks, but the data grew stronger. The artifacts did not merely challenge a few dates, they rewrote the connections between civilizations. They suggested humanity had been part of a global network of shared knowledge long before history began. The patterns were no longer ignorable. They were a map pointing to a lost chapter.
Emerged among researchers: the first global civilization. This idea proposed that before Egypt raised its pyramids, before Sumer built its ziggurats, and before India developed its advanced mathematical systems, there existed an earlier civilization that connected people across continents. This civilization would not have been global in technology, but global in influence. Its explorers, teachers, or traders, whatever they were, spread ideas, symbols, and knowledge across vast distances. Later civilizations would reinterpret, modify, and expand upon these ideas, giving rise to the diverse cultures we study today. The theory explained why advanced symbols appeared in isolated regions long before they appeared in their supposed regions of origin. It explained the consistent mathematical patterns found across the world. It explained why myths from different cultures describe mysterious visitors who brought knowledge of the stars, agriculture, and architecture. If such a civilization existed, it also explained why the archaeological record appears abruptly sophisticated in certain places. The rise of writing in Sumer, the sudden emergence of dynastic Egypt, and the unexplained mathematical precision of early India might all be remnants of teachings passed down from an earlier, forgotten people. But the greatest mystery remained. What happened to them? Some researchers suggested natural disasters like massive floods, volcanic eruptions, or climate collapse erased their world. Others believed internal conflict or disease might have ended their civilization. More speculative theories proposed that they migrated elsewhere or transformed into cultures we no longer recognize. If this mother civilization truly existed, its disappearance would explain why so little remains. Time erases all but the deepest mysteries. The implications of this theory are profound. It means history is not a straight line, but a cycle of rising and falling civilizations. It means humanity's origins are far older and more complex than textbooks suggest. And it means the artifacts discovered in that remote excavation site are not anomalies. They are messages from a forgotten world, urging
or buried because it doesn't fit the neat timelines written in modern textbooks. When objects appear in places they should never be, carrying symbols from cultures that did not exist yet, we are forced to ask a deeper question. Who taught the first civilizations? The patterns we saw across continents are too precise to be coincidence. The mathematics is too advanced to be accidental. And the similarities across cultures separated by oceans are too detailed to be random. Whether the forgotten civilization behind all this vanished in a global disaster, slowly faded through time, or transformed into something unrecognizable, one thing is clear. Their fingerprints remain everywhere. In our architecture, in our myths, in our language, in the symbols carved into stone long before recorded history. And discoveries like this remind us that we are still scratching the surface of humanity's true story. Every year, new evidence emerges that pushes the beginning of civilization further back, revealing that our ancestors were far more connected, far more knowledgeable, and far more advanced than we once believed. If these discoveries continue,
We may soon uncover proof that an ancient global culture once shaped the foundations of the world we know today. And if you want to stay ahead of these breakthroughs, if you want to keep exploring the mysteries that mainstream history refuses to explain, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Hit the like button, share this video with someone who loves ancient mysteries, and turn on notifications so you never miss what we uncover next. The past is speaking. It's up to us to keep listening.